Hey everybody, so good to be here with all of you tonight. We're going to have yet another great late night chat. So let's do it.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. We have got plenty to talk about tonight. A lot is happening, and we have got plenty to say about it as usual. Now, we're going to be following our normal format, which is first my opening remarks. Then from there, we do a roll call. We find out who's on the other side of the camera, and then I answer your questions for the remainder of the night. So to answer your question, am I a coffee or a tea man? One of the best ways, in fact, the best way to send your question for the second half of the show is to go to buymeacoffee.com/Caleb Maupin. Now, you can also do super chats. We are monetized. And if we do get 10 super chats in a night, I will, at that point, play the new China song that is a favorite of people on this channel. But yeah, a lot of great things are in the works with the Center for Political Innovation. We are going to be gathering in Chicago on August 14th. For a France out of Africa stand with the Union of Sahel States rally. Very, very exciting. Just had a great meeting with an important friend today to discuss details of it. Very, very exciting. So I hope that you all will make a point of joining us in Chicago on August 14th. On top of that, this is part of our national 7-day training program that we are launching. It'll be in August 12th to 19th. It'll be CPI members from around the country gathering for music, speeches, and education. It's going to be very, very, very exciting. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to please register today. Now, there's been a few people who've registered that we've tried to follow up with. We've called their phone number. They haven't answered. Please get back to us if you want to attend, right? We have to have a conversation with you and stuff. We can't just, let you come. We have to vet you, right? There are security concerns. But if you want to come, please register. If you're a CPI member, go ahead. After you complete the 7-day program, you'll be accredited as a CPI member. Everyone who came last year was accredited. If you're not a CPI member and you want to learn more about our organization, I, again, encourage you to come. Please register. To attend the 7-day national training program. It's going to be very, very important. We need anti-war organizers and anti-imperialist activists more than ever right now. And you will spend 7 days with CPI members getting to know us and learning what we're all about. We'll be training you and all kinds of stuff. We actually we just had a great call tonight about some of the classes we're going to do, training on practical skills in terms of outreach. It's going to be really, really great. So, yeah, we got some really, really exciting stuff in the works. So that's our national 7-day training program that will include our France out of Africa rally that we're doing. It'll include our national convention, our gathering that we're going to have. We have once a year, we have a national gathering. It's going to be really, really great. The Center for Political Innovation is the kind of anti-imperialist organization we urgently need in America at this time. This is us. that's us. We are the Center for Political Innovation. People are joining. We had 2 new memberships come in just yesterday. People are joining. So become a member today. Get involved. Send us a donation if you want. You can do that on the website as well. We got some big plans coming up. A lot is going on. I'm trying to scramble and figure out all the fundraising to make sure everything goes well in July and August. But we are moving ahead as a movement. We are the anti-imperialist movement that this country urgently needs. So get involved. CPI is the future. We are marching ahead. We have a great, great group of people in many different parts of the country. And yeah, I really, really love CPI. We got some big plans for after August, after our 7-day training program, how we're going to swing into action. It's very, very exciting. So I guess just a quick reminder, the way we do this is just like all our other live streams, which is first I give my opening remarks, then we do the roll call, and then the best way to send any questions that you might have to be answered in the second half of the show are to go to buymeacoffee.com. You can also do Rumble rants if you're on the Rumble. You can also do super chats now, but the best way is buy me a coffee. Folks, Donald Trump is digging himself a deeper and deeper hole. Yesterday, I got on television, as I do frequently on international TV, and I got on and reported about the USA launching a new round of airstrikes against Iran. Here was my reporting yesterday about what happened, and we'll take it from here.
Shortly after the Pentagon said its forces have begun launching strikes against the country. This followed the shooting down of a U.S. military attack helicopter in the area. Let's get more details from our New York correspondent, Caleb Maupin. Caleb, thanks for joining us. Just take us through what's known about this latest escalation.
Strong response is the words that U.S. President Donald Trump is using. The U.S. Army AH-64 Apache helicopter that went down near the Strait of Hormuz yesterday is being described by Donald Trump as being shot down by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, crew members of the helicopter were rescued shortly after the incident, so there were no casualties on the part of the United States. However, Donald Trump considers this to have been a strike by Iran. He says that out of necessity, the United States must respond to the attack. Here's what the U.S. president said.
I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured. Nevertheless, the United States must of necessity respond to this attack.
Now, it's important to note that Donald Trump has referred to the incident as not a big deal when speaking to the Wall Street Journal and to other outlets. And he said also that the pilot is fine and that the incident and its details are, quote, much different than you think. Now, in his latest statement, we have Iran's foreign minister reiterating that Iran's claim on the Strait of Hormuz as under the sovereignty of Iran and Oman, and pointing out that the United States has its shores thousands and thousands of miles away. The United States really has no business claiming that the Strait of Hormuz must be open and that they have the right to militarily intervene there. Now, he went on to say that Iran is on constant alert and that any breach of its territorial integrity will be responded in proximity to the area. Here's the Iranian foreign minister.
Despite its defeats on the battlefield, the U.S. opted to test our determination. Our powerful armed forces will leave no attack or threat unanswered. Leave our region if you want to be safe. History of the Persian Gulf has many chapters on dire fates of intruding outsiders.
Now, international media outlets, as well as the Iranian Foreign Ministry, have maintained that this Apache helicopter was not struck by Iran, that it went down for other reasons. It was not the result of a military strike. Iran did not shoot down this helicopter. However, the Pentagon considers this to have been an attack from Iran, and that Iran has noted that incidents like this could occur intentionally as a result of the tense situation situation in the area. At this point, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and the United States is increasing its military presence in the region. The situation is tense, and Iranian officials maintain they are prepared to respond to any scenario. Here's what we've heard from other Iranian officials.
A naval blockade is an act of war. We have responded to it, and will continue to do so. This is certain and is our legitimate right. If the United States chooses to respond to the downing of a helicopter that was part of military operations enforcing the blockade against us, it should consider our response inevitable. We will answer any action with a swift and decisive reaction. If there is any doubt, look at our strike against the Israeli regime.
Now, Iran maintains that they did not shoot this helicopter down, but now the U.S. Central Command is reporting that these explosions taking place in Iran near the Strait of Hormuz are what they're describing as self-defense strikes by the United States. And Donald Trump is echoing that, saying that the United States is taking action. Now, this comes on the heels of Donald Trump saying that he ordered Iran and Israel to stop bombing each other in order to prevent wider conflict throughout the region. And now it looks like hostilities between the United States and Iran are restarting in light of this helicopter going down in disputed circumstances. Now, what's interesting is that we have Israel and their chief of staff saying they're prepared to launch another deep strike inside of Iran. And the Israeli chief of staff is talking about how Israel is prepared for a much more significant and severe blow. Meanwhile, we have the Islamic Revolutionary Guard saying that they intend to respond to any attack on Iran with heavy response to the enemy's hostile actions. That's the language that they are using. So the situation is very volatile. We're hearing these reports of explosions. The United States is taking credit for these explosions, saying it is self-defense. For the shooting down of a helicopter, Iran says they did not shoot down this helicopter. People are wondering how the situation will develop, and we are keeping our eye on it.
We are indeed. Caleb, many thanks for the update. For now, that's our correspondent in New York, Caleb Maupin. Let's continue the...
Yeah. So Iran didn't shoot down this helicopter because if they did, the people on board would be dead because they would have blown up. Instead, this helicopter crashed and the people on board were floating in the water and the United States rescued them. And they're totally fine. And this was not an attack. But the USA is using this, Donald Trump is using this to escalate his attacks on Iran. And it's completely absurd. And I mean, it's just crazy. And if you think, I mean, the stock market, look at the stock market. The oil prices are rising. It's already, the oil prices are insane. Now the oil prices are rising even higher. And we've got crazy, crazy threats being made. I mean, this is completely ridiculous. As I have said over and over again, there's not going to be a deal. Iran is never going to agree to not support Ansar Allah in Yemen, the Houthis. Iran is never going to agree not to support Hezbollah and the Palestinians. It's just not going to happen. So Trump needs to just call this off and declare victory, say they'll never get a nuclear bomb because they were never going to get one to begin with. And he needs to call the whole thing off. That's what needs to happen. But that is not what seems to be happening at the time. Now, what seems to be in the works at the moment, unfortunately, it seems like we're heading for, an escalation of this conflict, which is bad for the economy. And it looks like Trump is going to pay the price at the polls in November. I got plenty to say about that, but a couple other things. So I had to go into Manhattan today. I avoided Manhattan Monday, and I avoided Manhattan on Tuesday. But today, I had to go into Manhattan. I went to Times Square to film a story. Oh, my goodness. The New York Knicks game in Madison Square Garden. It was crazy. But after I did my work, some people I know in Iran were having a conference about, anti-imperialism, etc. And they asked me to record a video message about CPI and what we're doing. So after I filmed my story, which was quite difficult because there were so many people around, I then recorded this video message on behalf of the Center for Political Innovation that I made and sent to a conference in Iran. And so it's about 10 minutes. And you can see me walking through the chaos in Times Square in as the Knicks game is going on. But I'll show you. I mean, it got crazy. I mean, I was just there in the afternoon. I was out of there by 5, but it got crazy. I mean, this is what happened there last night. This is what happened outside the game last night as people were leaving the game. I don't know if you've seen this video of fans fighting each other. I mean, it's so many people, and they closed down all the streets surrounding Madison Square Garden, 30th Street, etc. But this is what it was like last night. Yeah, that was on Monday night after the game. So anyway, as it was getting towards that chaos around 5 in the afternoon, I recorded my video message to the Iranian Anti-Imperialist Conference as a favor to to somebody in Iran who does a lot of anti-imperialist media work. They said, "Can you record this message?" So I did. So you can see, pay attention to around me. It was utter chaos. It was quite difficult to record this message. Quite hot and a lot of people, but I did it. And it's an iconic location. Times Square is a really important place, right? Around the world, people recognize Times Square as being a really important place. So this was my video message I made to the Iranian people and to this Iranian conference this afternoon. So usually when I do video messages like this, it ends up getting reported on like Farsi language media or something like that. So we'll see if there ends up being a news report or something about this. And it was quite a thing, but I had agreed to do this and I said, all right, I'm going to do this. Here we go.
My name is Caleb Maupin. I'm a journalist and a political analyst. I am also the founder of the Center for Political Innovation, and we are anti-imperialists here in America. We recognize that it is Zionism and imperialism that is the enemy of the American people. It is not the Iranians. It is not Muslims. It is the globalist imperialist bankers that have ground this nation into poverty and are setting up a low-wage police state in what was once a land of opportunity. And we have been engaged in all kinds of anti-war activism to raise awareness and stand in solidarity with Iran. When the Democratic Party had their No Kings rally, they refused to include Iran and demanding an end to the war in Iran in the march's demands. So what we did, we actually blocked the parade. With Iranian flags, we set up a human chain along 7th Avenue in Manhattan. We clashed with the marshals. It created a big splash at the No Kings parade because we wanted to make clear that Iran is not our enemy, and the main objection to Trump is not that he's centralizing power. America needs a strong leader right now, more than anything. The problem with Trump is he's not a strong leader. The problem with Trump is that he's not crushing the power of Wall Street. The problem with Donald Trump is that he's obeying the Israel lobby, obeying the military-industrial complex, and obeying the Zionist bankers who have seized control of our country. So we disrupted the No Kings rally as a way of showing solidarity with Iran. But at the moment, one big focus of our outreach is to show how the Islamic Republic has benefited the Iranian people. If it wasn't for the Islamic Republic, there would not be universal electrification in Iran. Iran would not have the very, very low rate of illiteracy that it has. The Islamic Revolution has meant real tangible benefits. The construction jihad that was launched by Khomeini in the aftermath of the Islamic Revolution had a really big impact. I also want to say that these rallies that have been happening every night in Iran are very, very important because the propaganda that we're being shown in American media, they say that nobody in Iran supports the government. Nobody in Iran supports the government. They all are just waiting for American tanks to roll in and bring them free freedom. But Americans know that's not true. And part of reinforcing the American knowledge that that's a lie is seeing those rallies where thousands and thousands of Iranians gather in the streets at a time their country is being threatened with being bombed. They gather in the streets to support the Islamic Republic, to support the supreme leader, to condemn the criminal murder of Khamenei, the supreme leader, a ruthless act of gangster barbarism committed by the United States in service of the Israel lobby. Those rallies are really, really important because it disproves the narrative that we're getting. There's a lot of Iranian exiles in America, people that fled because they were on the wrong side of the revolution. And U.S. media and mainstream voices treat them as if they are experts on Iran, as if they are a credible voice that we should be listening to. And they're not, right? These are people with an axe to grind. And what I've been reinforcing in my conversations with Americans, on my nightly YouTube broadcasts, and the outreach that we do in the streets of the country as the Center for Political Innovation, what I've been reinforcing is that those people, the Shahs of Sunset Park, the Likudniks, the Zionists, the Mujahideen called terrorists, MEK terrorists, they do not represent the Iranian people, and they don't care about America. All they want is vengeance against the government of Iran, and they don't care how many Americans come home in body bags. They don't care how much Americans are seeing their living standards go down or getting squeezed due to the gas prices and inflation. All they care about is their international agenda, their alliance with Israel to destroy the Islamic Republic. And that's one thing to remember. These people are not our friends. America is a lot like the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire imported barbarians from around the world, people who did its duty in its final years. The ability of the Roman Empire to call up its own military got less and less and less. So they filled their city up with barbarians, people they hired. And in America, we have a lot of barbarians. We got Miami Cubans, people that were on the losing side of the Cuban Revolution, and they don't care about America. All they care about is overthrowing Fidel Castro and overthrowing the Cuban government. We've got anti-Russia fanatics. We got the Falun Gong that wants to overthrow the Chinese government. We've got a lot of people in America, these fanatical extremists that have been promoted by our tax dollars who don't care about America. They just want to get us into new wars for their little vendetta, and they're being used by the Zionists and by the globalists to push us into new wars, and they don't care about America. And that's what's really important to remember. There was a time where you could say that Americans were benefiting from the international policies, from imperialism, right? They were bombing and destroying countries around the world, but Americans were seeing their living standard go up. Those days are over. Americans are seeing their living standards go down, while our leaders are more and more desperately committed to maintaining this international system around the world, keeping the world under Wall Street's grip, attacking countries with bombs and drones and tanks in order to keep Wall Street at the center of the world economy. Americans aren't benefiting from it. The people of the world want freedom and independence, and what I have been telling people and what our literature that we've been distributing across America has been pointing out as the Center for Political Innovation, one thing that we have been making clear as we do our outreach constantly is that the axis of resistance in the Middle East, this axis of resistance, it represents the future in the Middle East. It is part of the rising new BRICS economy. And the only future that America is going to have is going to be joining the rising new economy. If America continues to be part of the British Empire system, it's going to go down with the British Empire system, because this old international order rooted in colonialism is outdated. It's not the future. And that's the international order that set up Israel with the Balfour Declaration. That's the international order that's getting us into wars around the world. And that system is dying. But there is a new system rising in Eurasia with Russia, with China, with the Eurasian Economic Union, the Belt and Road Initiative, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ansar Allah in Yemen, the Hezbollah organization in Lebanon. They're part of this new economy. And if America is smart, if there's anyone in Washington, D.C. who's intelligent, they'll realize that instead of being enemies of this rising new economy, we need to start cutting our ties with Europe and cutting our ties with the old Atlanticist order and pivoting closer to the rising new economy. Now, part of what we've been pointing out as kind of a small step toward making that happen is building a tunnel over the Bering Sea, connecting America with Russia via Alaska over the Bering Sea. That seems like a small step, but it's a step in the right direction. And there are other things. But every day we're in the streets. Our members in LA, we have a whole team in LA that's out in the streets. We've been featured in many prominent YouTube channels. We have people in Minneapolis who are out in the streets. We have people here in New York City. We are constantly doing outreach around the country saying that Iran is not our enemy, Wall Street is our enemy, and what we need in America is a government of action that'll fight for working families, right? We have government right now that is crushing and grinding this nation into poverty and taking us into wars around the world. We need a strong government, a government of action that'll fight for working families and break the power of the big monopolies, break the power of the military-industrial complex, and really put the American people first by connecting them with the people of the world and joining the rising new economy around the world. That is what the American people want in their bones, and they don't really have a way to communicate it. And the Center for Political Innovation, with our constant outreach and education, we are trying to communicate that message to the American people, and it's not easy. We're not extremists. We don't engage in cancel culture. We don't advocate violence. We advocate a peaceful transition. We want a democratic, pro-growth, pro-humanity, anti-monopoly coalition to emerge in U.S. society. But that's what is urgently needed. Wall Street and London are leading America down a black hole, and Israel is a big part of that. And that's the only future America can have, is joining the rising new economy and having a government that is investing in people, not Wall Street derivative rip-off schemes. That's what we urgently need in America, a government that invests in human labor power and human creativity, not the power of big banks and not derivative rip-offs and fictitious capital and speculation. We need a government that invests in human labor power and the godlike creativity. You know, human beings are different from animals. Animals, they only interact with their environment. But human beings, we have the ability to create and to innovate and to reinvent our relationship with nature. We are not like animals. The Bible talks about how human beings were given dominion to be fruitful and multiply and transform the earth with our presence. And that is uniquely human. And we need a government that celebrates that. But our leaders are Malthusians. They believe that there's too many people in the world. We need to drive down the population. They believe humans are non-productive consumers or useless eaters. They are anti-human and they are anti-God. But we need a government that sees human beings as a great asset, that invests in every child who is born. We need a government that views human beings as beautiful and powerful and able to reinvent the world. We need a government that celebrates human creativity and celebrates God and his love for humanity. That's the kind of thing that we need. We don't have that in America. You know, we've got a lot of fanatical Christian Zionists. We've got a lot of fanatical atheist Zionists. But what we need more than anything in America is a pro-humanity, pro-growth, and anti-monopoly government that'll tie us in with the rising new economy. So I'm here in New York City's Times Square. It's a little bit chaotic today because of the Knicks game that's happening, but I just want you to know that here in America, there are people that support you, people that are morally outraged by the crimes of our government, people who see the Islamic Republic of Iran as a stronghold of resistance to Wall Street and London and all the satanic forces that dominate our world. There are people that see through the lies of imperialism and are working to try and connect America with you and with the rising new economy and get America free from the grip of the Zionists and the international bankers. We're with you. We want a government of action that fights for working families. We oppose these wars. Stay strong and continue resisting the imperialists. The world is looking to you for inspiration as you stand up to Wall Street in London and assert your sovereignty, standing in solidarity with Palestine. Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Yeah, that was my message to the conference in Iran. So it was an iconic location. I was able to do it in Times Square, and so hopefully that's well received. I get requests like that all the time. And a lot of times someone says, hey, can you do this? And I say, oh yeah, I'll do it. And I just never get around to the video. But today the guy followed up with me. I need the video, Caleb. We're having a conference in Iran. We need the video. And I said, all right, we'll do the video. And I did the video. So hopefully Iranians see that and they know that not all Americans hate them, and that our government is just as much our enemy as it is their enemy. And that the billionaire bankers that run this country are not friends of the American people. And I tried to communicate what CPI is all about. I did send them the video of us blocking the No Kings parade. So I did that, and so I did various things. I did want to put a couple other things. So, Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, who was murdered, I am one of the few Americans that actually got to be in his presence. So I thought I would play that clip. I've got a couple other clips related to Iran I thought I would play. And I got a couple other topics to talk about. Then we'll start answering questions. So yeah, this is the day I saw the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Syed Khamenei speak in Iran.
Appointed day came, and I could only get permission in the place of the foreign guests. I had hoped at least my location close to Iran's supreme leader.
I was successful. I saw the Supreme Leader. I was able to be just 200 feet away from him. I was able to look up at him right there on the balcony and see his face, see the face of the Iranian Revolution, and be in his presence. The first time that I teared up was when I saw, the Supreme Leader and was able to look at him and just to see him come out and to just see his presence. He has this presence, like you could feel the difference. Even if I couldn't see him, I would have known when he walked into the room and when he left, even if I were completely blind. You can feel his presence. But the second was to look out on the crowd of people and see, how they responded to him and see how fired up. And I saw that that's who the Iranian Revolution was for. My Iranian dream was to look on the face of the Supreme Leader and see who it was who wrote that letter and come to understand what was behind that beautifully worded letter. Find out what was behind it. Find out what the society that has a leader like that is like. I felt like I was not just looking at the face of one man, I was looking at the face of the Iranian Revolution. I saw with my eyes the Iranian Revolution. I looked at it with my own eyes. I saw it with my eyes. I saw what this country is about and what it's fighting for. I saw it, all the passion of the people who unfurled those flags and screamed for Palestine.
Yeah. And that's, you can watch the whole film. It's on the CPI website under films. The film I made in Iran in 2015 about visiting Iran in response to the Supreme Leader's letter to the youth of America. I wanted to also play a clip. This is a clip from Khomeini, the founder, not Khamenei, but Khomeini, his predecessor, who was the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And this is him talking about the oppression of black people in America when he was interviewed by Mike Wallace, the TV journalist.
That today, perhaps today, some black hostages and some female hostages will be released from the American embassy compound. Is that true?
The freedom of the women and blacks will be given. Women are given great dignity in Islam, and the blacks have been oppressed in the United States. Great injustice was done unto them. They were under pressure in the United States. Thus they came here. We are doing this owing to the tenets of Islam. In return, we ask nothing for their freedom. We want the Shah, Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
I ask you, as an American and a human being, talking to an Iranian and another human being, is there no room for compromise? Or is Iran now in effect at war with the United States?
حضرت امام آیا جناب عالی یا به طور کلی ایران در حال حاضر با امریکا در حال جنگ هستیم؟
جنگ مقصود چی است؟ اگر مقصود این است که
What do you mean by war? If you mean our armies against the United States armies, no, there is no such war. If you mean it is a battle of nerves, it is Carter's doing. We are against war. We are Muslims. We desire peace for all. Carter does not allow this. Carter should put aside his so-called humanism and return the criminal Shah so that we can conclude this matter.
Yeah, that was Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, explaining why the students in Iran seized the embassy. And it's pretty wild because, you know, the election in 1980 that happened was very much influenced by that incident. The USA had been backing the brutal dictator, the Shah. The Iranian people overthrew him, and the Islamic Republic came out of the revolution and ultimately became the government. And then the students, when the United States gave refuge to the Shah, the brutal dictator, who the Iranian people wanted to put on trial for his crimes against the Iranian people for being such a ruthless leader. The USA gave him refuge, and so the Iranian students seized the embassy, the U.S. embassy, and it's still in Iran. It's actually a museum now. They call it the Nest of Spies, and it's a museum dedicated to the crimes of American imperialism. I've never actually been inside. I've seen it. They wouldn't. The tour guides wouldn't take us inside, I think, because they felt it was too anti-American. We'd be insulted by it. So whenever I was in Iran, they never actually took us inside the Nest of Spies, the U.S. Embassy Museum. But they seized the embassy, and the people inside were taken as hostages. They released all the women, and they released all the black people, and it was only the white men that were held, and they were like CIA agents. And they found documents that showed that the USA was doing all kinds of evil things in Iran, funding terrorist groups and separatist groups trying to break apart the country, helping, murderous people tied in with the Shah's regime to flee the country. And, they showed all of that. And they showed that. And the hostages were actually treated very well. The movie that they showed, the Hollywood movie that they made, that won Best Picture in Hollywood, is full of bullshit. I mean, it's just pure propaganda. There were no mock executions, right? In the Hollywood movie that they made, what is it called? Argo. They made it sound like they mock executed the people to terrify them. And that's not what happened. They didn't do that. And in fact, their chef, was one of the people who was a hostage, was the guy who cooked their food. And they brought him all the food he wanted. And basically all these people lived in the embassy anyway. And they were there with their chef, and their chef cooked them the food. And they got to eat, free food from their chef, and they just basically lived in the embassy. They just weren't allowed to leave. And in America, they started having really anti-Iran rallies. Iran sucks, bring back the hostages. And that was in 1979 and 1980. And Jimmy Carter tried to rescue the hostages and failed. And after that, the hostages were not rescued, at that point, the U.S. public voted for Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan said he was going to make America great again. Let's make America great again was his slogan, and he was going to increase military spending, and he made a deal, with the with the Islamic Republic, and the day that Ronald Reagan was sworn in, they released the hostages. And it was a dig at Jimmy Carter, because Jimmy Carter had given refuge to the Shah. And it was also because, and this is actually very interesting, Iran did not want to be considered a Soviet-aligned country. And that Jimmy Carter engaged in détente with the Soviet Union and the SALT Treaty, and Iran very much wanted to be anti-imperialist, but not part of the Soviet camp. And that was actually something I learned when I was in Iran, that if they had freed the hostages while Jimmy Carter was in office, that would have made them a Soviet-aligned country. So they freed the hostages the day Ronald Reagan took office to make clear they were not a Soviet-aligned country. It's actually very interesting. The language that Khomeini used to describe the Soviet Union is very similar to the language that China used during these years to describe the Soviet Union. Soviet social imperialism. That's what China called the Soviet Union. They said it was Soviet social imperialism. Iran used similar language about Soviet social imperialism. Very, very, very interesting. And then Iran did not, their slogan was neither East nor West Islamic Republic, not capitalism, but Islam. War of poverty against wealth, but they always maintained that they were not a Marxist country, but they were not a capitalist country either. And they still maintain that. They maintain that they have their Shia Islamic revolutionary ideology. But they very much, and I have stacks and stacks of Shia Muslim books that they gave me when I was in Iran. I would argue there's a really big Marxist influence on the Islamic Republic. Now, Shia Islam has been around for thousands of years, but the brand of Shia Islam that took power in Iran in 1979 is, I would argue, heavily influenced by Marxism, even though it rejects dialectical materialism. I mean, it's very much a spiritual movement. And it's very socially conservative, believes in traditional gender roles, believes in a theocracy, right? They believe you must have an Islamic government. But at the same time, they have a centrally planned economy where most industries are nationalized. They have revolutionary organizations that are in every community, the Basij councils. They have the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, which is a military organization that is the largest economic entity in the country. I would argue that Iran is not capitalist, and that Iran points to, that really we have to get out of the Cold War terminology. Iran was never like the Soviet Union. There was always a market sector in Iran, but Iran's economy is centered around the state, and the state emerged out of a popular anti-colonial revolution. And if you look at Venezuela's economic system, if you look at China's current economic system, that is the new anti-imperialism. And in Venezuela, they call it 21st century socialism or Bolivarianism. And in China, they call it socialism with Chinese characteristics. In Vietnam, they call it the Vietnamese socialist-oriented market economy. And different places around the world have adopted different versions of it. But that is the new kind of system. You have a powerful state that comes out of an anti-colonial revolution that controls the major centers of economic power in order to ensure growth. And then you allow a market sector to flourish. And religion tends to be really, really important in this, right? And if you go to especially, not China or Vietnam, but, Venezuela is a very religious country. Nicaragua has this system. It's a very religious country. Christianity, socialism, and solidarity. This is what anti-imperialism looks like in the 21st century. It's very, very interesting. But anyhow, we at CPI, ever since this completely unprovoked criminal attack on Iran, we have been in the streets. I'm going to show you some of our activism. This is the day that Khamenei was murdered. We were out in the streets of New York City and other cities around the country.
Within the White House, I don't know if you guys saw, Trump gets on TV this morning. He goes, "Oh, American patriots are going to die. Oh, and that's okay. That's okay because the children of the Epstein class won't be the people going out to fight and die so that we can get regime change in Iran. It won't be the bankers on Wall Street who go out and fight and die. It won't be the politicians in the White House or in Congress. It won't be any of the elites who are holding our country hostage in a war that does not benefit the American people. The American people do not want a war. 80% of the American people are opposed to this war. American soldiers do not want to fight the Iranian people.
We have no democracy anymore. We have no constitution, and we need to take back our republic. Otherwise, there will be increasing wars, unstopped wars.
It's absolutely disgraceful. Not one American serviceman should die for Israel's war in the Middle East. Not one American serviceman should come home in a body bag, and our servicemen do not want to fight. On the aircraft carriers that they have parked outside of Iran, you have thousands of American servicemen intentionally clogging the toilets and trying to flood the aircraft carrier because they know that the Iranian people are not their enemy. They know that Wall Street is their enemy. The most anti-war people in this country are our servicemen. And why? Because they're actually the people that are going over there to fight.
Enough war! You were lied to about Iraq. You were lied to about Afghanistan. You were lied to about every war that has ever been fought in this country. Enough wars for nothing. Bring our troops home, protect the United States. Clean up this country. Put them to work.
Hey, CPI is out here on the streets of Portland, Oregon to say no war with Iran.
We need peace now. Iran did not attack us. Iran actually doesn't want nuclear weapons, but they have a right to develop nuclear power as any country has.
We should not start a war in Iran. Let Trump figure that out. This isn't our war. Our war is in the USA where we gotta worry about our own people. He is putting Americans last. He's Israel first. Trump is for Israel, you guys.
Oh, hey, Tony, what's going on? What's going on? We got war with Iran. Hennepin County Medical Center, the biggest hospital in Minneapolis, is going to close this summer. Why? Because we got money for war, and we got money for ICE, for killing American citizens, for named Paul Good, Alex Preddy. We got money for war. Iran is not our enemy. Epstein and the Israel lobby are the enemy. No war for bail. Iran is not our enemy.
All right. I'll start off by saying that I do not speak for everyone here. These opinions are my own. But I want to say I do think it is wrong that the military murdered Ayatollah Khamenei. He was a strong leader who protected religious freedom in Iran. He protected Christians, protected Muslims, protected Jews. He had provided good health care and education for people. And so I think it's wrong to go kill leaders, especially good ones.
Well, I'm at a major intersection in St. Louis trying to let people know that Iran is not our enemy. I've received a lot of positive feedback from people, but we all need to get out of our comfort zones and get into the streets and protest this insidious war.
Why are you here protesting today?
Oh, hi. Thanks for asking. I'm here because of what's happening with the U.S. agreeing to bomb Iran with Israel. This is not what the people want. 80% of the American people are pissed off about this.
The world is watching us because we are in the belly of the beast, but we are the heart of free speech. And that is why I'm able to get up here and say, free the world from tyranny.
Affordability. That's one of the huge issues in America right now. People can't pay rent, can't buy a house, can't afford their car, can't afford car insurance, food, you name it. And fighting Iran isn't going to help that. In fact, it's going to hurt it because you're going to see there's going to be a reaction in the market because you're going to have a disruption to trade. You're going to have
Yeah, we have been all over the country opposing this war. And then about a month after that, in March, when they did their No Kings nonsense, we did something very daring and exciting, and we blocked the No Kings parade. No Kings was the national day opposing Donald Trump that was called by the Democrat. The Democrat The Democrats decided to have a national day to oppose Donald Trump because they don't want strong leaders, and Donald Trump is not that. But they had their national day, and they didn't include war against Iran in their call. So we blocked the parade on 7th Avenue, and Gabby was in town, Noah was in town, our whole crew was there, Paul and Briggy and Jessica and Eric, and we shut it down. We did good stuff that day. It was a great day. Phil was out there with us, and Irving and Mahir, and this was great. So this is what we did, blocking the No Kings parade in solidarity with Iran.
Hands up, Iran!
Hands off Iran! Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran!
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Democrats are complicit.
Democrats are complicit.
Control opposition.
How do you feel, Irving?
Good. My grandfather was who's still alive now. He was a civil surgeon who used to serve in a rural part of Iran, so like in a northeastern part of Iran, city called Mashhad in close to Afghanistan. So he used to serve there, and my mother grew up there in Iran when she was younger. And this was after the revolution, so there was a real need for like doctors. Holding this flag, it means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Yeah. Well, Iran's being bombed right now, and they're standing with Palestine.
Yeah, very much so. It's the main country that's resisting, and you have much of the not just the Islamic world, but much of the world. The global South stands in solidarity with Iran. Very big pleasure to be joined by Caleb and by the CPI.
Yeah.
Did you hear, Noah, that the No Kings organizers didn't include no war on Iran in their call?
Yeah, even mainstream media, how can you not do that? But of course, the Democrats, they applaud when Trump lies about the Iranian people, but when he talks about stuff that doesn't really matter, then they scowl.
All right, so we've claimed a good spot here near the stage to do our thing.
All right, are we ready, guys? Ready to do this? So when the song ends.
Democrats to stop the war. Hands off Iran. 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 Democrats to stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Go away, lady.
Bombing them, damn it. They don't deserve to be bombed.
You're still out to your own fight.
Yeah, you support kids getting bombed by the U.S.? You support that? Fucking dumbass.
They deserve to get bombed.
They're killing. We just bombed babies in the school. The fuck?
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
I've been chased by cops at the door.
Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Hands off Iran.
Hands off Iran. Stop the war. Democrats can stop the war. Democrats can stop the war. Stop Iran.
Democrats can stop the war.
Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Come on, man.
The war.
Stop the war. Stop the war. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Stop the war.
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Stop the war.
Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Democrats can stop the war.
Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Come on, man.
Democrats can stop the war. Democrats can stop the war. Democrats
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats have got the war. Hands off Iran.
We are on the same side. Can you please move?
Hands off Iran.
Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back.
Democrats are complicit.
Democrats are complicit.
Controlled opposition.
Democrats are complicit. Democrats.
What do you think?
I think it's great. We're getting the word out. I mean, there's so many people here who are anti-Trump, but they don't talk about the Democrats.
Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran.
Hands off Iran! The unions, the Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran!
Stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands
The wars. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the wars. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the wars. Hands off Iran.
You can protest on the side, but you can't block it.
Real quick, let's
Hands off Iran!
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off
Hands off Iran! Hands off! Democrats can stop the war! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran! Hands off Iran!
So we've been standing here holding up the march for over an hour, and we're getting lots of thumbs up from people, lots of support. Everyone going by likes us. We had kind of a dust up with the marshals, but this is really going really well.
Hands off Iran. The Democrats are complicit. 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 Hands off Iran.
How's it going, Gabby?
Going good. Going good.
Democrats are complicit.
How do you feel?
Good.
The Democrats are complicit.
Finally.
Hands off Iran. The Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran. The Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran. The Democrats are complicit. Hands off Iran.
Do you like our message?
Yes, I like your message. I think that the U.S. bombed threw a missile on those children and they died for nothing and nobody even cares. And I wonder what Hexas would say to his 7 children if they would throw a bomb on his children for nothing.
Thank you. Glad you're here.
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. The Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran.
Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war. Hands off Iran. Democrats can stop the war.
That's us. We are the Center for Political Innovation. We are a great, absolutely great organization. Wanted to comment on a couple other things. Graham Plattner is going to be the Democrat Party nominee in the state of Maine for the U.S. Senate, and they pulled out all the stops and went after him very viciously. I made this comment after he won, and I posted it online. This is my comment on Graham Plattner getting the Democrat nomination.
Graham Plattner won the Democratic primary because people are tired of the bullshit. Nobody is interested in what somebody's ex-girlfriends have to say about them. Nobody's interested in this stupid character assassination that goes on against everybody who becomes prominent and isn't part of the club in American politics. And, you know, I don't agree with Graham Plattner on some international issues, but I'm happy that they didn't stop him from getting the Democratic nomination. And I'm looking forward to him defeating Susan Collins and becoming a member of the U.S. Senate, because I saw the way they were going after him. It was bullshit, and people are sick and tired of the bullshit.
Yep. So that was my comment there. So, all right, let's do the roll call. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Then I'll start answering questions. Then we're done. So names and locations, who is with us tonight? Names and locations, who is with us, who is with us, who is with us, who is with us? Names and locations. Jake in Portland, good to see you. Jake, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. Names and locations, Dayton, Ohio. Brian, good to see you. Chuck in Florida, good to see you, Chuck. Names and locations, who is with us tonight? We got names and locations, who is with us, who is with us? Names and locations, who is with us, who is with us? Names and locations, who is with us, who is with us, who is with us? Names and locations, who is with us? Who's with us tonight? Names and locations. Auckland, New Zealand, Kiwi Corner. RC in Arizona. Good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. Names and locations, who is with us, who is with us? Names and locations, who is with us tonight? Names and locations, who is with us, who is with us? Lana in Russia. Good to see you, Lana. Good to see you as always. Names and locations. Anybody else with us tonight? Names and locations. All right. Well, Alex, the Menshevik in Sherman Oaks, and Gabby in Chicago. I hope you had a great soccer game, Gabby. Always good to do athletic activity. I wanted to give a shout out, if he's watching, to Paul. Paul is a CPI friend, and Paul plays music. He is very, very musical. He's a musical guy, and he has played music at many of our events. And today on my other YouTube channel, I finally got around to posting what I meant to post for a long time, which is some videos of Paul's performing at CPI events. We have high quality video of our events, as always, and I have meant to put up the videos of Paul's musical performances. So I finally got around to that. So I thought before I answer questions, I will put on Paul performing some music at a recent at the CPI event in January. Paul and Dan. Dan is a vocal musician, and Paul is a guitarist and a banjoist. So this is Paul and Dan performing two songs at our recent CPI gathering. To the packed hall, they performed "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep" and "The Battle Cry of Freedom." So shout out to Dan. I know he's traveling. He's had kind of some family emergency stuff going on. And shout out to Paul. If you're watching, we love you, brother Paul. Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, Mary, Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitor and up with the star. We will rally around the flag, boys, rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. Springing to the call of our brothers gone before. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. We'll fill their aching ranks with a million freemen more. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. The Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitor and up with the star. As we rally around the flag, boys, rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. We'll welcome to our numbers the loyal, true, and brave. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. And although they may be poor, not a man shall be a slave. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. The Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitor and up with the star. We'll be rallying around the flag, boys, rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. Springing to the call from the east and to the west. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. And we'll further battle through from the flag we love the best. Shouting the battle cry of freedom. The Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah. Down with the traitor and up with the star. While we rally around the flag, boys, rally once again. Shouting the battle cry of freedom.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right. So if you got any questions, now would be the time to send them. Best way to do it is to go to buymeacoffee.com / Caleb Maupin. And you can also do super chats. We get super chats. We're monetized once again. On top of that, in addition to that, we do, we got a Rumble rant that came in, I saw from Skipazzi. And in addition to that, we do have other, you can do various things, but the best thing to do is go to buymeacoffee.com. And somebody already did it. We got one question that has come in already. So if anyone else has any more questions, please send them. The question that comes in, it's anonymous, which you can do on Buy Me a Coffee. It says, how is China different from the U.S. when it speaks of how they support free trade or reduce or eliminate tariffs on certain overseas factories in Bangladesh or creating free trade areas in Southeast Asia? There's a fundamental difference, which is that China builds up the economies of the countries it trades with. When China trades with a country, they build infrastructure, they build power plants, they build highways, they build airports, they build roads. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization build up countries they trade with. They don't strip them bare. We saw in the 1990s what neoliberalism is. It just strips countries of everything. Countries have to, sell off their state sector to the highest bidder, cut all their public services, and just demolish their economy in order to help secure the monopoly of Wall Street. Whereas when China trades with a country, it's the opposite. They tend to build up the country by building infrastructure. So that's the difference. There's a very, very, very big difference. A lot of people get confused about what the definition of imperialism is. They think imperialism is when a country does something bad. They think imperialism is when a country engages in trade, and maybe that trade is not completely beneficial. Imperialism refers to an economic system, right? Lenin talked about imperialism as capitalism in its monopolistic stage. But in addition to that, you can go to Henry Charles Carey and what he contrasted the English system with the American system of Alexander Hamilton, and how the English system was about, underworking the Hindu and sinking the rest of the world down to his level. The English system, there's fireworks going off outside my window there. I guess maybe the right team won the game or something like that. the English system was, reducing the level of the population and, reducing infrastructure and concentrating wealth in a mighty city. It was, developing one, global empire based on ocean trade, whereas the American system was building up the economy on the land. And you can read Henry Charles Carey's great pamphlet, Harmony of Interests, where he talked about how slavery and the preservation of slavery in America was very, very much the work of the British Empire system, and that kind of system of global free trade, that system has certain attributes. And China doesn't practice that. If anything, China practices something closer to the American system of Henry Charles Carey, but it's based on Marxism, Leninism. It's based on their history of socialism. It's socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's about building up and developing infrastructure and getting wealthier by expanding the amount of wealth in society and using human labor power to generate wealth. The Malthusians think that human beings are the problem, and the American system of Henry Charles Carey and the Marxists of China, they think that human beings are the source of wealth. And that's really the difference. Are human beings the problem, or are human beings the solution? I believe that human beings are the solution. Now, we have another question that came in as a Rumble rant. It's kind of vague. Skipazzi said, "We are all sheep. We must become wolves." Well, think about that. I mean, we're all sheep. When people say we're all sheep, it's because sheep function as a herd, as animals. I grew up around sheep. My grandfather actually raised sheep as his hobby. I shouldn't say his hobby, but it was like he worked a regular job until he retired. He worked at a chemical plant, but then he raised sheep as an additional form of income. So every day before work, he got up and he fed the sheep before work, and then before he went to bed at night, he went and fed the sheep, and he raised sheep and sold them as a way to make money. And then he worked a regular job. And then after he retired, he just had the sheep out in the barn. And as a kid, when I would stay with my grandparents, often we would have to wake up in the morning and go feed the sheep. And I know a lot about sheep, and you walk into the barn and the sheep go, and they go all the way to the other side of the barn because they're terrified of you. Right. And then when you put the food into the food area, the sheep kind of look at each other and they see that, there's food in there, and then they all in a herd, and they all go, over and start eating the food. It's kind of adorable. But, sheep have a certain way of doing things. I don't know. One thing about sheep, well, anyway, I could start going on about agriculture, but this is a side of myself. But yeah, as a kid, I saw sheep a lot. And I think what you mean when you say we're all sheep is that sheep are generally, they function in a herd, and they're generally pretty docile. They're docile animals, and that, I will say that rams, male sheep, are not very docile. But if you see sheep in a pasture, you're not going to see them. Generally, the sheep that you see in the pasture are all either female or castrated. Male sheep are rams, and they actually grow horns, and they're actually quite aggressive, and they can hurt you. A ram, a ram can really hurt you. And if you have any rams, those are male sheep that have not been castrated. You have to keep them separate from all the other sheep, and you have to keep them in an area that's very well secured because they can get out. They can break out, and rams can, they just start banging on things with their horns, and and they can break through a wooden fence. But so generally, when you see a flock of sheep, you're seeing castrated male sheep, and you're seeing female sheep, right? And so the image that we have of sheep as docile is based on, the sheep that shepherds keep, which tend to be only castrated males and females. Whereas, if sheep were just in the wild, the men would not be castrated, and they'd all have huge horns. And, I don't know if we'd think of sheep as docile at that point, right? Sheep are tribal, right? They're in a flock. They're definitely in a flock, and they definitely work as a group. I mean, there's no question about that. They work as a group. They very much, their existence is very collective, I guess you could say. But you're saying, so you don't want to be sheep, meaning that you don't want us to be docile. You don't want us to just follow the herd. And you want us to be wolves. Well, wolves are predators, right? You know, and I'm not sure I want people to be predators either, right? I don't think I want people to be sheep or wolves. I don't want people to be sheep in the sense of being, you know, the kind of passive, you know, go along, you know, image that we have of the sheep, you know, and the shepherds, right? But I also don't think I want people to be predators. I mean, the Roman Empire was based on the idea that people should be wolves. In fact, this is the famous statue, right? This was a statue that the Roman Empire had. This was one of their most famous statues that they had, you know, commemorating the founders of the Roman Republic. So this is a very, very famous statue that was in Rome. It's, you know, it's considered, you know, one of the most important classical works of art, and it was a manifesto. I mean, this is a political manifesto of the Roman Empire, not delivered in written form, but rather delivered in the form of a statue. And this is I guess I'll read you the name of it. This is La Lupa Capitolina, or the Capitoline Wolf. And this is in the 5th century, and it was in Rome. They had this statue of Romulus and Remus, the two brothers who founded the Roman Republic. And the story goes that they were abandoned by their fathers at birth, left by the river to die. But the she-wolf, the female wolf, raised them, and they were raised by wolves. And that is what made them strong enough to go out and build a mighty empire, as they were raised by predators. Now, the Roman Empire was a predatory empire. It was an Atlanticist empire that controlled the trade routes, that kept people in poverty. And it was based on, they kind of celebrated the predatory and animalistic and might makes right side of the human species. And the Roman Empire was pretty barbaric and pretty awful in a lot of ways. You know, so I don't think we should want people to be wolves. And I also don't think, you know, sheep left in the wild are not the image of sheep that we have. We don't want to be sheep. We don't want to be human agriculture, I think is what you're saying. We don't want to be, what do you call it? We don't want to be human cattle, right? We don't want to be just, you know, passively. We don't want to be living biologically. That's what it is. But we don't want to be predators. And, you know, I've many times on these streams talked about the concept of living biologically and how most people are just living biologically. They're alive, literally, but they're alive in the same way a weed in your garden is alive, or they're alive in the same way a cat or a dog or a rat is alive. They're alive, but they're not really asking big questions. They're not really trying to change the world around them. They're only living in the biological sense. They're not living in the spiritual and fully human sense. That's what we mean. And that what CPI is about challenging people to take on a truly human existence. I get into all of this in my, you know, this is the big book, Imperialism and Anti-Imperialism, that's out. You know, I'm going on all the different shows. I'll be talking about this book on Jamarl Thomas tomorrow morning. That's why I got to wrap this up soon, because I got to get to sleep, because I got, you know, but, you know, we challenge people to take on a truly human existence. Human beings ask big questions and reinvent their environment and change their environment based on, you know, they innovate. Human beings are innovators. And that's what CPI is about. It's about trying to wake people up and get them to take on a fully human existence by changing the world. It's really beautiful what we're doing. And our ideology of innovationism is very unique in that we take the best from Marxism, but we also celebrate a spiritual aspect of what it means to be human. We're anti-imperialists. It's very exciting. So this is a promotional video for CPI that we did, where some of our members talked about the organization. I'm going to show that, but this is the last call if you've got a question. If you want to go to buymeacoffee.com, if you want to send a super chat, if you want to send a Rumble rant, this is the last call to, oh, Jake sent one in. There we go. All right, so I'll put on the video and then I'll answer Jake's question. But if anyone else has any questions, last call, go to buymeacoffee.com or super chat or Rumble rant or whatever. So here we go.
Jackson, we're good. All right.
So I decided to go to a Chicago workshop, and Caleb explained the economics of why our country was taking us to war. It's part of the economic system of globalism, imperialism.
The thing that struck me was that he was very passionate about what he was saying. He was very passionate.
Be myself and not be judged, for who I am.
I knew about the Trotskyist to neocon pipeline, but I didn't know why that was. I thought it's kind of a mystery. What I found by learning from Caleb is that the common thread is anti-populism. It's a distrust of the vast majority of working people.
The idea of defining capital as profits in command, and that's a brilliant definition to simplify it for people.
To try to actually build a community in the United States and also caring for one another.
I remember looking over the room and I saw all of the people in that room. It was a packed room. It was almost 150 people. And there was just this energy of acceptance, of goodwill towards other people. And they could just have a good time. And I remember thinking this is for me. I could do this. I'd like to do this for my life. I want to be an anti-imperialist.
I was just looking for a real organization, an authentic organization that really wanted to had a positive message and really wanted to build up America.
Have friends who are like-minded in the sense of trying to find the answers of becoming a real anti-imperialist.
So I found it very enlightening, and I was inspired to start my own chapter of CPI up in Minneapolis.
And yes, I was pushed to be a better activist. I was pushed to be more socially oriented. But I was never made to feel like I was a bad person for being the way that I was.
The LA group, what a great team of guys. It's just been such a rewarding experience.
And I've made some great friends along the way.
I remember feeling, for the first time in a long time, like I belonged somewhere. And I was never made to feel like I was a bad person for knowing things. People were interested in talking about the things that I was interested in talking about. And I could speak freely about my opinions, and people were fascinated.
He was talking about someone who drew a picture of him, and it was very funny. It was him in a suit and tie, which is what he was wearing, I think, that day that he was streaming. And he had, in this picture, there was him in his red hair that someone had drawn, and he was supposedly yelling, and I thought that was hysterical because they really captured the passion, and I think they were trying to be funny, but he showed that picture, and I hope he shows this picture because I think it's hysterical. It's not like sort of old man yells at cloud, but it kind of has an old man yells at cloud energy. But what he was really yelling at, as I got to know him as a person and look at his streams, was that he was yelling at what this country and what imperialism is doing to the rest of the world. And he was really trying to educate people to that effect. And having that level of passion is going to bring out different sides of you that some people may understand, some people may not get. But I certainly did get it because I have the same fiery, passion as well. So in that, we are all kindred spirits at CPI, but certainly seeing Caleb that first time on YouTube, on his live stream, just going off.
Mao Zedong, the leader of the Chinese Revolution, in one of his speeches, he said, if a person's political line is incorrect, his very soul is incorrect. Now, that's often misquoted or translated as, if a person has the incorrect political line, it is as if he has no soul. Well, I'm going to say that Mao had it backwards. I would say that it's not that if a person has the incorrect political line that he has no soul. I would say that if someone has no soul, then they have the incorrect political line. That's what I would say. And if we are not espousing optimism and hope, we have the wrong political line, no matter what we say.
Yep, that's us. So Jake sent me a question, and he said, Brian Berletic reports the USA is planning to feed Europe next into the Ukraine proxy war against Russia. If this is true, how can we oppose this? Well, there's a problem with that. If NATO countries get directly involved, this turns into World War III. At that point, the way NATO works is that if any NATO country is attacked, all the NATO countries have to respond to it. And so if NATO forces were to actually get involved in the Ukraine conflict and then any of them got killed, at that point, we would have World War III on our hands. And I feel like there were many opportunities for that to happen. If that was the intention, was to have full on World War III with Russia, that would be the case. And I feel if anything, the White House is signaling, at least to Russia, that that's not what they want. Now, things may be beyond their control, and it is possible that Europe could get into the conflict and Trump would leave them out to dry. And as much as Trump is very close to people that clearly want horrendous activities in the Middle East, I feel like the way the White House has been conducting itself, they want to at least, give the impression to Russia they want better relations. They want to, de-escalate with Russia to some degree or other. So I have a hard time believing that. I saw all the articles that you shared there. I'm not going to put all of those articles on the screen. Brian Berletic, I don't listen to his content. Generally he's on the same side as we are. Anti-imperialist, but people continue to come back with me. He's on this kick that Israel is not to blame for the war in Iran, that this is all America's fault. It's all Americans that are involved, right? And I don't know anything about Brian or whatever, but I do know that some of the forces that are echoing that argument, like Ben Norton, like the Workers' World Party, like the Struggle La Lucha organization, those are crypto-Zionist forces. I would maintain that the Workers' World Party and Struggle La Lucha are infiltrated by the Mossad because they have waged a personal campaign against me. And like when I had my falling out with them, it was because I went to Iran, and it was because, I wouldn't repeat their, it really just got down to it. And they coordinated with Mossad to go after me. There was a smear piece against me in Haaretz, and they echoed the claim that I was a white supremacist and a Nazi. They operated in coordination with Mossad. So I believe there are probably people in the Workers' World Party and in Struggle La Lucha that are Mossad agents. I don't think necessarily every person in the group is like that. I think there's a lot of people in the group that are just old leftists who whatever. But the fact that they are suddenly trying to say, no, it's not Israel's fault. Oh, no, that's just evil America made Israel do it. The fact that that's what they're saying, the fact that they continue to claim I'm some kind of white supremacist and Nazi when I'm, you can look down at my record. That's a Mossad operation that they're cooperating with. I don't know about Brian Berletic, and I haven't listened to his material, and I'm certainly not calling him a Mossad agent because I just don't know enough about him. But I find it very sketch. The people that suddenly are coming out with this, no, it's not Israel's fault. That's really a weird position to take. It's a very, very odd position to take. And of all the times to say that, and it's a soft defense of Israel, right? It's not saying Israel's right to do what it does, but it's Israel knows not what it did. That's a weird thing to do. And I see like multiple articles on the Struggle La Lucha website saying that. Meanwhile, I know for a fact that they continue their hate campaign against me, which is very odd because I haven't associated with those people in over a decade, but yet they continue this very vicious personal campaign against me that, they were taking direction from Mossad, basically. And it was after I got back from Iran. So, there are Mossad operatives on the left. There is a Mossad left. Okay. Let's just be real. Israel has a lot of agents on the left. When I was getting ready to go to Cuba, I remember one of the people that went with me, I didn't end up going, but I was getting trained to go on the Venceremos brigades. There were multiple Israeli citizens that were going there, and that there's a layer of people that are like pro-Cuba and pro-Israel. Right. And that, there's a lot of Mossad infiltration, right? A lot of communist and leftist groups have people that are quietly pro-Israel inside of them that report back to somebody. And, it's like they know the group has to officially denounce Israel and protest Israel with all the other leftists, but, they're doing something, beneath the surface, they're undermining, right? And they're trying to make the protests ineffective. They're trying to sow confusion, etc. when I was in the Workers' World Party in Cleveland, I've told this story many times. They were pro-Palestine. But I remember one time I went to a pro-Palestine rally, and there was a group of Muslims that had a leaflet about how Israel violates women's rights, and in certain Orthodox neighborhoods, women have to sit in the back of the bus, and there are certain laws in Israel that discriminate. And this woman was, she pretended at least to be, anti-Israel or whatever, and I just started reading the leaflet out loud, and she started yelling, in response to that. And she said, well, at least we don't stone women, and just started repeating the most vicious, Islamophobia. It was like the mask came off for a moment, and she had a relative in Chicago who was the principal of a Hebrew school. And, and I mean, she was planted in the group to do pro-Israel stuff, and, and she started a hate campaign against me as being anti-Semitic. And, and you look at her social media now, she's pretending to be pro-Palestine again, but I'm sure she's collecting information and she's reporting back to her sister who runs a Hebrew school in Chicago, and she's an agent. You know what I mean? I mean, why would she act that way? Right. And there were many times, when Helen Thomas got fired, for saying that Israel should get the hell out of Palestine. She did this whole thing about Helen Thomas was anti-Semitic and all this, and it was weird. And then it was like every so often the mask comes off and they reveal themselves to be Zionists, and then they go back to pretending to be pro-Palestine. And that's how crypto-Zionist operatives tend to operate. And most communist groups are littered with people like that. That they follow the line every so often, but then every so often they get the nudge and they start, cancel culture campaigns against people. That's one of the main things they do. Jewish Voices for Peace is full of Mossad agents. I mean, Jewish Voices for Peace is, it's an explicitly Jewish organization. And among their ranks, people say that, like, you cannot work with them if you are at all anti-imperialist, right? They will find out that you are somehow anti-imperialist, and then they will start a campaign that you're a white supremacist or a neo-Nazi, and all them drive you out of the group. And Jewish Voices for Peace is very well connected. And, its message, they support Israel. They just don't agree with what Israel's doing, right? That's their message. And that in a way they're helping Israel, because they're putting out that, see, not all of Israel agrees about bombing Gaza. See, some Israelis are, it's a game that they play, right? And that, Israel controlling its opposition and choosing who is allowed to be its opposition, right? Noam Chomsky was Mossad, and he was working with Jeffrey Epstein, and he was one of Israel's harshest critics. Why? Well, he said that they shouldn't boycott Israel. He said that there was no conspiracy to kill JFK. He said there was no 9/11 truth. Don't look into it. And he would criticize Israel by quoting mainstream media articles about the bad things that Israel does in his very boring voice, And, Noam Chomsky was reporting back to Jeffrey Epstein, reporting back to various people, and Israel picked its own opponent, and Noam Chomsky was very boring, and he was just the voice of Israel's opposition. Meanwhile, he also, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, he kind of started functioning as, with Qatar. Qatar is not really opposed to Israel. Iran is. Everyone knows the main force opposing Israel is Iran. Qatar, this whole thing about Qatari money on blah, 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 that's bullshit. Qatar doesn't really oppose Israel. Right? Qatar, it's the Muslim Brotherhood, and they were key functionaries of the U.S. during the Arab Spring. And, these things are complicated, but like Noam Chomsky, he takes the Qatari line, not the Iranian line. And I saw that when he came to the United Nations. I'll even show you. I think I've got my classic, interaction with Noam Chomsky. Have I got that here? Yeah, Caleb Maupin. This is when I asked Noam Chomsky. It was a very straightforward question about how Israel murdered Iranian nuclear scientists at the United Nations. Now, if he was honestly against Israel, he would say, yeah, they sure did that thing, and it was wrong. But this is when I asked Noam Chomsky, just wanted to get a soundbite from him about Israel murdering Iranian nuclear scientists. And here's what he said.
Press TV News. And in the last couple days, there have been reports in the U.S. media quoting figures from the Mujahideen Khalq, which is a terrorist organization, alleging that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. And it has been leaked that the Israeli government has cooperated with Mujahideen Khalq to assassinate Iranian nuclear scientists. And my question is that a violation of international law? And why is it that Israel is cooperating with what was at one point universally recognized as a violent terrorist organization?
violation of international, we can debate this or that fact that's not yet accepted and agreed, but there are gross violations of international law which are proclaimed openly and publicly and presented with self-praise. So, for example, suppose that when President Obama, or any Western, any American diplomat or journalist, says that with regard to Iran, all options are open, as is said constantly, what does that mean? All options are open means force is open, means nuclear attack is open. Those of you who may recall an obscure...
Yeah, so that's Mossad, right there, right? The issue at hand was Iran is having its peaceful nuclear scientists murdered. Mossad is working with the Mujahideen cult terrorists to do it. And he couldn't call that out. He had to say, well, maybe, but why focus on one crime? Every time Obama says all options are on the table, that's a crime. And it's like, wait a second. Like, and that's what he does, right? Is he, don't look into 9/11 truth. Don't boycott. There's just one crime. I mean, and this is controlled opposition, right? And this is how these forces work. And the crypto-Zionists control the communist groups in America. And most of the communist groups at this point say they're against Israel. They didn't always say that. And the Socialist Workers' Party supports Israel 100% at this point. The Communist Party used to have a very soft position on Israel, but they've adjusted. Now that the left is protesting Israel, it's about making sure those protests, making sure that those protests don't build a base among the population. And they're really terrified of the new right because the new right is, has a line that could actually win over the population. And they have created a cancel culture apparatus so that if you were to talk in a way that won over the population, you would be canceled on the left. This is I talked with Pasta about this very issue when we had a stream. This is me with Pasta, Craig Pasta Jardula.
What's going on with Nicolas Maduro and these other situations, but that particular group right there, to me, it's the same thing we see when they bash the Bolshevik Revolution, because they don't want you to ever believe that there could be a class revolution the way there was with the Bolshevik Revolution, right? And they want to sell you, yeah, I know America dropped bombs on innocent civilians in Japan, but look at Stalin. He's killed. And it's like the fish that got away. They'll tell the story 1 week, 10 million. The next week will be 20 million. Then it'll be 40 million, whatever. Same thing with Mao. They want to sell American imperialism as the lesser of two evils. And I think that that's what this group is here for. I believe a lot of these people are feds. I really do. Fuentes, Bilzerian. I wouldn't say that about Candace. And I wouldn't say that Candace is so much anti-Semitic, but she does believe, she has a choice now. She does believe that the Bolshevik Revolution is all about Jews killing Christians, which we know is not fucking true, because at that particular time, the USSR had maybe 3% of the country was Jewish. So if there was a civil war, there would be 6%, 7% at most. Stalin was not Jewish. You had educated me on the fact that he had built a lot more churches than anybody years after, and they closed down the churches in the beginning. They weren't anti-Christian, but the Tsar had used the churches as the arm of oppression. The same way they did out in fucking Europe for years, for decades and generations. They always used the church as the arm of oppression. So the Russian Bolshevik Revolution was also about stopping the oppressors because it was a class warfare. So they shut down those churches only to reopen up churches 10 years later in mass amounts. What are your thoughts when you see this new right and everything I kind of just laid out for you right there? How would you describe them right now and what they're doing and what they're saying?
Well, I want to give a nuanced answer to this because there are some questions that you can't just just shout a slogan. You have to really get into the nuances of this. When it comes to the Israel-Palestine thing, the new right, the reason that they're important, the reason I don't completely write them off, and I was very proud to go to Rage Against the War Machine to try and interview Joe Kent. He didn't want to talk to me, but that's okay, to talk to some of these other people, and that's why I'll go to libertarian events and others, is that...
But he's not an anti-imperialist. That's why you want to talk to Caleb. Let's just be honest. Go ahead.
Is that when it comes to a mass line, right, just kind of the surface level mass line, the new right has it right, which is America first, right? That should have been the line of the Palestine movement from the beginning. Why are we spending billions of dollars on some foreign country and their war when America's bridges and highways are falling apart, when, you know, pregnant mothers in this country can't, you know, get baby formula? You know, that should have been the line. That, you know, that if you really love America, we should stop being involved in giving billions of dollars to this foreign war. They say that. And that they're correct in that. And that should have been the line of all pro-Palestine protests from the beginning. So they're right in that sense. But deeper, ideologically, they have no clue what's going on. You know, they think we need to have real capitalism. They think, you know, anti-Semitic stuff. They don't know what to believe. So that on the surface level, their mobilizations and their like kind of basic talking points are much better than the left. The left, on the other hand, a lot of them do understand imperialism. They've read, you know, Lenin and all of that. But they present in the pro-Palestine movement, I am convinced, and I wrote an article on the CPI website called The Palestine Movement is Trapped. The so-called left, whether it's the Answer Coalition and the Party for Socialism and Liberation, or Jewish Voices for Peace and the Democratic Socialists of America, their approach is they give the middle finger to American workers. Their message, you go to those pro-Palestine rallies that I went to and I agree with them, but their message was basically America is an evil, racist, settler country and all white people are white supremacists and fuck America, fuck this country, and America's evil just like Israel and we hate America. And to most people, they see them waving a foreign flag, they see the faces covered up, they see the middle fingers, and they think this is a group of people who hate me, right? So maybe they understand things on a deeper level and they've read some stuff, but to most Americans, they just look like a hate mob of foreigners that hates them. Whereas the new right, they have a mass approach, but they don't know what's going on. And I think both sides are completely lost. At the end of the day, the message needs to be that our leaders in America are not loyal to the American people. They're loyal to maintaining a global international financial system. Capitalism in its monopoly stage, imperialism, globalism, whatever you want to call it. And that what we need in America is a government that invests in human beings, which are the source of all wealth, and a government that invests in communities and will connect us with the rising new economy around the world. We need a government of action that'll fight for working families. And that would mean stopping the propping up of this system with its wars. That would also mean embracing countries like Russia and China. That would mean taking control of our natural resources, our oil, our gas, our coal and timber. That would mean creating a national bank. That would mean, you know, hiring the unemployed to rebuild this country. You know, we have an economic program that would transition the United States out of being part of this globalist imperialist economy and toward a government that invests in communities. And that is the correct answer. And the right hates us because they believe capitalism is magic. And that if you just privatize everything, it'll work. And that's a delusion. And the left gets mad because they're not interested in actually winning. They're interested in getting revenge. And I must talk about, you know, anti-Semitism is a horrible thing. Judging anyone on the basis of their race, their religion, who their parents were is wrong, okay? And so I reject any form of racism or ethnic bigotry. I will work with anybody, no matter what their race, no matter what their religion, and I would be the last person. At one point in CPI, we had somebody who was kind of bullying some of our Jewish members, and I made the mistake. I should have kicked that person out immediately because it was a big mistake, and that mistake will not be repeated. But that said, at the same time, there is something beyond just Zionism. Zionism is the notion that Jews are so special, they're such a special group, and, you know, they're just so special that they can never fit into Europe, and they have to have their own state because they're just so special, and they're persecuted because they're just magically better than everybody else. It's a supremacist ideology that has developed over the years of being segregated, over years of pogroms and the Holocaust. It's like they come by it honestly, okay? I'm not saying that they haven't endured horrendous suffering to come by it, but at the same time, it is a supremacist ideology. I mean, the Talmud says that only Jews are human and that non-Jews are not human. We don't have souls if we're not Jewish. I mean, it is a supremacist belief system. And beyond just straight up Zionism, which is the belief of Jewish nationalism in the Jewish state, there's something else that even Lenin called out. It's called the spirit of the ghetto. And it's this notion that Jews are so special and that the masses of people in Western European countries are the enemy. And that, unfortunately, underlies a lot of American leftism. And, you know, a lot of American leftist politics is the spirit of the ghetto. It's anti-populism. The idea that average Americans deep down are all a bunch of bloodthirsty, anti-Semitic racists, and that instead of trying to mobilize the American people to fight in their economic interests, we just want to tear them down and punish them. And that's why, like, the American flag is triggering. That's why, you know, the left, it has this kind of hostile character because a lot of the left is captured by entities that maybe they don't support Israel. They still maintain what Lenin called the spirit of the ghetto, which is this hostile, this anti-populist supremacist mindset that sets them apart from the American people. And, you know, the Party for Socialism and Liberation and Jewish Voices for Peace, when it really gets down to it, they all just think that, you know, that the American people are the enemy. Now, DSA is a little bit smarter about it, and they don't say it as blatantly, but, you know, PSL blatantly thinks it. And, you know, PSL, I was in the Workers' World Party for years. PSL is a split from that. I mean, Sam Marcy was this guy from Ukraine, was born in Ukraine, who suffered a lot of anti-Semitic persecution. The Bolsheviks saved his family. He moved to America. He was in the Communist Party for a while, but the Communist Party was told by Stalin to Americanize and become a party of the American workers, and to move their headquarters to Chicago rather than New York City, because Chicago is more in the heartland of America. And Sam Marcy, the founder of the Workers' World Party, who was born in Ukraine, was a Jewish guy from Ukraine who had a thick accent. He didn't want to do that, and he resented that, and he didn't like that the Communist Party was picking white dudes like William Z. Foster and Earl Browder to be their leaders. He wanted to do something different, and instead of forming a mass party, he formed kind of a gang of teenage misfits in New York City that went around breaking windows and stuff to support the Black Panthers, to support the Vietnamese people. It was a good thing to do, and the economy at that point was booming, so maybe average American workers didn't hear it, but PSL and they have an anti-populist approach rooted in the spirit of the ghetto and rooted in Trotskyism.
Yes.
And we need a mass movement in America that works in the interest of the overwhelming majority of the American people against imperialism. And that's not going to come from the new right. And it's not going to come from the crypto-Zionist left. We need a real populist movement. And so that's why you need the Center for Political Innovation. We're the only ones really putting forward an optimistic program of putting the American people and their interests first and aligning them with the people of the world against the imperialists.
Yep. So there you go. That's all you needed to know about that. All right, folks. Well, listen, I don't see any new questions having come in. And I think at this point it's late and I'm going to be on Jamarl Thomas 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I'm going to put on the closing music and we'll be back, you know, probably tomorrow night, if not tomorrow night, pretty soon after that. We're always streaming on here. All right, folks. Yeah, get a copy of my new book, Imperialism and Anti-Imperialism. See me on Jamarl Thomas tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.